The Seattle Surge home series has come and gone, and the regular season of the 2021 CDL season is over as we look towards the Stage 5 Major and the postseason. The Seattle home series was a pretty good weekend of Call of Duty. There were some really good matches, and there were some teams that I think clearly stand out as winners and losers from the event, and those are the teams we're going to talk about today. So if you enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like down below, smash that like button, leave a comment as well with your thoughts on the video and your winners and losers from the Seattle home series, and subscribe to the channel as well if you want to see more videos like this one from me in the future. I do appreciate all of your support so very much. Thank you again, and let's hop right into the video. The first team I'm looking at as a big winner from the Seattle home series has to be the Dallas Empire. When you look at what they did against the Toronto Ultra, that was a very impressive performance from them in a series that had a lot riding on it, because it was pretty much the race for the 2 seed at Champs, and as we all know, the 2 seed gets a bye in the winner's bracket at Champs, whereas the 3 seed does not, so that is a pretty big difference. Obviously, you'd much rather be the 2 seed than the 3 seed, and Dallas is now in that second place only by 5 points, but currently they are ahead in that race, and it was just a really great performance from them in general. I mean, Illy has been looking great lately. He's definitely their guy who, if he keeps playing well, they surely can compete with any team in the league. You know, I've been lower on Dallas than most people pretty much all season long, but their turnaround has been impressive, and Illy has clearly had a turnaround in his individual level of play that has affected the team performance. He's been much better, and they've been much better as a result. So if he keeps playing well, Shotzzy, of course, playing like he's just one of the best players in the world like he is, I mean, they're looking great. They did get the 1 seed in Group B as well for the Stage 5 Major, so that is sort of like a double whammy. Not only did they get 10 points that they prevented Ultra from getting by winning the match, but they also got themselves that 1 seed in Group B, which is important because, of course, the 1 seed is more likely to get a higher placement, more points, and get the 2 seed at chance, which is what it really all boils down to. They still do have to perform, though. They cannot place behind Ultra at all in this tournament. If they place, even if they were to get 4th and Toronto would get 3rd, Toronto would jump them for the 2 seed at champs. So pretty much whichever team places higher at this major will be the 2 seed at champs. So Dallas still has to do their best work at the major, but the good news is for them, they looked better on land than they did online, and they've been looking great online. So if that trend continues, they should have no problems being better than Toronto right now. I think Toronto is surely a good team, but Dallas just looks like they have their number right now. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but Dallas looks great against Toronto. If they can just outperform them one more time at this Stage 5 Major and get that higher placement, they will be the 2 seed at champs, which is a huge advantage as we already established. So big performance from Dallas overall. It was a huge win not only for the placement, but also just for their momentum and their abilities as a team right now. They're looking very sharp. They're really firing on all cylinders, and they are for sure trending in the right direction as we approach the Stage 5 Major and ultimately champs, the biggest prize of them all. The first loser for me, without a doubt, has to be the Florida Mutineers. It was a really rough weekend for them, and what even made it more unfortunate for them is that it had the potential to be a very good weekend that turned bad fast. They entered the weekend as the 1 seed in Group B. All they had to do was they controlled their own destiny. If they won both their matches, they were the 1 seed at the major. It would have been absolutely huge for them for points and for seeding heading to champs. Instead, they're now going to start in the losers bracket. So you go from potentially the 1 seed all the way down to the 4 seed in your group. That has to really hurt your team morale, and just all the momentum you might have had before that pretty much gone now. The race for the 6th seed is not looking good for them. They entered the weekend 20 points behind Minnesota. They had that match with Minnesota that could have got them 10 points closer. They lost, so now they are 30 points behind Minnesota for the 6th seed. They're also 10 points behind the LA Thieves for the 7th seed. So really, they're 30 points out of the 6th seed, and that is a huge deal because obviously, if they get the 7th or the 8th seed, they will be starting in the losers bracket at champs, which is very drastic. You know, the difference between the 2 and the 3 seed, like I said earlier, that's a big one. But the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed is probably even bigger, because if you start in the losers bracket as a 7 or 8 seed, you really have no margin for error. You have to play your best Call of Duty at all times, and that is terrible for a team like Florida because they have shown throughout the entire year that they are just so inconsistent. This is a team that at their best can beat a lot of teams, but they can just not be relied on to be at their best. And again, if you start in the losers bracket, you have to be at your best. You don't have the chance to be inconsistent because one down series and your season is over. So they really can't afford it at all. They're a tough team to be starting in that losers bracket because their margin for error, unfortunately, has been larger than most teams this year. They have these swings where they're either really good or really bad. I mean, they had matches against Toronto and Minnesota, so you can say, you know, they were going to be tough matches. I really didn't expect them to win both of those series, but I expected them to perform much better. They only won 1 map combined between those two. They got 3-1 by Ultra and 3-0'd by the Rocker, and the only win they had against Toronto was the Search, which was 6-5, so that was a close one as well. So overall, just was not a good weekend for them. Their team seems to be a little bit flustered. You know, maybe the morale is not there where it should be. They lost a lot of their momentum they had when they started the group stages 3-0. They can still be very good, but it's going to be a lot harder because, like I said, they would have to probably start in losers bracket at chance, which is not good for a team inconsistent like them. Sure, they still could go on a run at the major and place far enough ahead of Minnesota to get that 6 seed, but it would have to be like, they'd have to get probably top 3, and Minnesota would have to get top 8 or worse. So it's a pretty drastic difference. And again, they're going to start in losers bracket at the major as well. So no margin for error. Once again, they'd have to win 4 or 5 straight matches in a row if they want any shot at getting that 6 seed at champs. So it's not likely. It was a very down weekend for Florida, and they most certainly are trending in the wrong direction as we approach the CDL postseason. The second big winner from the weekend in my mind is the Minnesota Rocker. Sort of everything we just talked about for Florida, you could just kind of say the opposite for Minnesota. Their performance against Florida was one of their best performances in a long time. That might have been the best Call of Duty they played all year. They were firing on all cylinders. That 3-0 over Florida was super impressive, especially to come out and beat Florida pretty badly in a hard point where Minnesota, they're not a terrible hardpoint team, but it surely is not their best game mode. But Florida, it was their best game mode. They were, I think, 6-2 in hardpoint so far in Stage 5, entering that series with Minnesota. And Minnesota blew them out, and the respawn's pretty bad. So that was just a really great performance from them. They also widened that gap for that 6 seed like I was talking about. If they would have lost to Florida, it would have been 3 teams being separated by 10 total points. So, of course, that would not have been good for Minnesota. But now they have that 20-point cushion over the LA and the 30-point cushion over Florida. So they're looking much better in that regard. They still will need to perform at the major, though. Like I said, they cannot afford a big letdown, which they have had earlier in the year. I think they got a top 10 placement at Major 2. So it wasn't even with this roster. I think it was when Accuracy and Major Maniac were both still on the team. So it was a while ago. But still, they have shown they can have their dry spells, and they can't perform against the top teams all the time. So they'll still need to do that. They can't just come out and just crap the bed at the major, or they could potentially still fall into that 7 or 8 seed for champs. So they set themselves up in a good spot, though, with that win over Florida. That's really what matters most. All they have to do now is win a couple of series. They don't have to win the major or anything. If they even go out there and they get top 4, they will pretty much almost guarantee themselves a winner's bracket spot at champs. So that is big news for the Minnesota Rocker. They're playing great. Standy and Priesta, when they're at their best, are a very solid AR and SMG duo. Attach, of course, he's not going to kill you in the slaying department, but he's just a solid fundamental player who will make the right play. Same thing with Major Maniac. He's not going to take over a game, but he's not really going to lose you a game either. So they have a lot of talent on this team. They're playing well, at least the way they looked against Florida, and if they can carry that momentum into the Stage 5 major and in the champs, I think they would probably be my perfect definition of a sleeper team entering the postseason. But for now, they're trending upwards, and that's what matters most. So overall, I think Minnesota was a clear winner from the Seattle Surge home series. Finally, we're going to end with the second loser, and that in my mind is the Toronto Ultra. If you have not noticed, or if you watched my videos leading up to the Seattle Surge home series, I said the 2 biggest matches were by far Dallas versus Toronto and Minnesota versus Florida. So the 2 winners from the weekend were the 2 winners of those matches, and the 2 losers of those matches were obviously the 2 losers from the weekend, because those matches were just so important. So Toronto, they didn't look good against Dallas. They had 1 map win. They almost got reverse swept on a control. They managed to win the raid control, and then they ended up losing the Garrison hardpoint. They made it kind of close at the end, but really it was a blowout up until the very end. So not a good series for them at all. It just kind of seems like Dallas has their number right now. They were in a really good spot to grab the 1 seed in their group heading into the Stage 5 major. They also would have put a 15-point gap between themselves and Dallas for the 2 seed at champs. And instead, they kind of got blown out, and it was like one of the biggest matches of the year for them, other than, of course, the grand finals they were in. Obviously, that was a bigger match, but it was a big match, and they didn't look good. And, if you listen to the listen-in, and I believe the raid control, it kind of sounded like they were losing composure a little bit, which is not a characteristic we have known with this Toronto Ultra team. They have sort of been known all season long for their calm communication. Like, they stay calm, they don't let the pressure get to them, and they just stick playing as a team, and they make the plays happen. They ultimately did win that map, but they were not sounding the same they usually sound. They definitely sounded frustrated. That is not good for them, because their talent, of course, is phenomenal, but beyond that, it's their pairing of their talent with their composure. So they must keep that composure at all times as we head to the Stage 5 major and the champs. They are the 3 seed now, but like I said earlier, talking about Dallas, it's not by much. All they have to do is outperform Dallas at the major to get that 2 seed for champs, and that would, of course, be big for them, putting themselves with that first round bye at champs. That would be awesome, but they got to play better, and they got to get past Dallas. They lost to Dallas at the Stage 4 major, I believe, for 3rd place, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it was for the 3rd place match. And they lost to Dallas again with the 1 seed in Group B and the 2 seed at the major, or at champs, on the line. So they have not been able to beat Dallas in a big match the past 2 times they've played in a big match, and that is not good for them. They will have to get past Dallas at some point this weekend. They do start with the LA Thieves in the opening round of the winners bracket at the Stage 5 major, so that's one they should be able to win. Then they would go on to play Optic after that, another one they're definitely capable of winning. So they have the path to get themselves back into the winners bracket finals, which would be huge for them and probably would let them get past Dallas and get that 2 seed at champs. But they got to regain their composure. They got to play as a team. They got to get it going right now, because they don't have much margin for error, and they really want that 2 seed at champs. So that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like down below and leave a comment as well with your thoughts on the video and your big winners and losers from the Seattle Surge home series. And subscribe to the channel as well if you want to see more CDL videos from me in the future. I do appreciate all of that so very much. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a good rest of your day today. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video.